We can actually get a pretty good idea of what motherwort might bring to the table by looking at its name. So the common name, motherwort, wort basically just means herb, and mother implies that this is specifically tailored towards women, and especially mothers, which ties into its traditional use in childbirth and postpartum. Motherwort can really support you right after birth, during birth, and in the years following. It helps to stimulate uterine contractions, it can help to stop bleeding, and it helps reduce stress and anxiety, helps with postpartum depression. So a fantastic herb for women. Now, don't quote me on the pronunciation here, but Leonaris cardiaca refers to both its physical appearance and its herbal properties. The lion tail refers to how this plant actually looks when it's flowering. It puts up these tall flower spikes. And also lion-hearted, it supports you in both your physical heart, your cardiac health, and also your emotional heart. This is great for depression, anxiety, all of those kind of emotional, tight in the chest feelings. Motherwort can really help to support and alleviate those things as well. Just a quick reminder, I am not a doctor, I am not a clinical herbalist. This video is not intended to be medical advice. Motherwort is really easy to grow either from transplant or seed. It is in the mint family and it requires very minimal care. It'll thrive anywhere between zones 3 and 8. Motherwort is diaphoretic, it is a carminative, nervine, and an emmenagogue. So carminative means that it can help to stimulate appetite. That has to do with its bitter properties. Emmenagogue is related to your menstrual cycle, specifically women-oriented there. Diaphoretic, it can help you to sweat out toxins, help open up your pores and let heat out, so it can be useful in the case of a fever or just detoxifying your body. And nervine, it can help to just calm all your nerves. It has a slight sedative effect. So it's great in both an acute setting and also many people use it long term. The herbal energetics of motherwort are considered to be cool, astringent, and bitter. So it helps with any kind of inflammation, unrest, indigestion, stagnancy. It's just a really wonderful one for so many things. And my favorite way to take it is as a tincture. Though you can turn the dried leaves and flowers into a tea, it has a really, really unpalatably bitter taste, which can be great in some instances if you need that carminative bitter effect, but it's much more easily palatable in tincture form. You can take 20 to 30 drops 1 to 3 times daily in acute situations, or perhaps talk to an herbalist or do a little bit of research if you want to use it for long-term health considerations. Let's take a closer look at my little motherwort and we can look at some of the identifying factors as a young plant, and then I'll also put up a stock image of a fully mature motherwort plant so you guys can see that as well. It is in the mint family, and if you're familiar with that, then you may recognize the slightly square stems. It is fuzzy all over, but soft, and each leaf comes off in opposing pairs. Now, when they are young like this, they have more palmate leaves, like this. And then as they get older, they turn into 3-tipped leaves. So the leaves do change in appearance quite a bit as they mature. And right now everything is very soft and supple, but as these grow, they will get to be quite woody stems. And eventually they will put off these really tall, pink spiked flower stalks. It's a really, really beautiful plant. This plant is really young and not really ready to harvest yet. It's still very early spring here right now. But I would love to take you guys inside and show you my basic formula for how to turn any plant into a tincture. Making a tincture is a really, really easy process. You need whatever herb you're wanting to use, some kind of strong, clear alcohol, preferably organic, but anything will do as long as it's 80 to 100 proof, some kind of jar, and then I like to use plastic lids. If you're gonna use metal, make sure that you use a little piece of parchment paper or something in between the metal and your tincture. That way you don't end up with any kind of corrosion from the strong alcohol. Now, I do prefer to work with fresh herb when I'm doing this, but dry herb will also work. If you're using fresh, just remove it from the stem if that's necessary. Chop it up a little bit to get some more surface area and start releasing those juices, but all the steps are the same. I'm gonna use a little bit of dried hops today because I have some on hand, and this is another great, relaxing, bitter nerving, but I have a really hard time drinking it as a tea because it is super bitter. It's not a really fun flavor, so I'm gonna tincture a little bit of it today. Just fill your jar up at least 3/4. You want a little bit of headroom, but not much. About that'll do. Pour over your alcohol so that the herb is completely covered. And put on your lid. You're aiming for the most herb to alcohol ratio that you can fit while still having the herbs all move freely within the alcohol. So this is really great. Everything is covered. It has a little room to wiggle, but I'm not seeing a lot of space where it's just alcohol and not herb. This is ready to go in the cupboard for the next 6 weeks to fully infuse and turn into a beautiful tincture. At that point, just strain it off using cheesecloth or a fine mesh sieve. Stick it into a dropper bottle like this, and this will store in your cupboard or in your refrigerator for several years. I prefer the amber glass bottles like this with the droppers. It just helps preserve the integrity of your tincture, and they're really cute too. While some people might not think it's strictly necessary, I do like to get in and check on my jar every couple of days, give it a little shake to make sure everything is staying evenly submerged. I'm not gonna end up with any kind of mold growth, which would be pretty unlikely in such a high percentage of alcohol, but just in case. And then I can also check to make sure that I'm not having any evaporation. If you are noticing your alcohol is coming down and you're having herb exposed, just top it off with a little bit of alcohol, put the lid back on, stick it back in storage. Now, you can take this, as I mentioned, acute symptoms. If you're suffering a panic attack, high blood pressure, stress and anxiety, things like that, that's usually how I use it. I have not used it in a long-term capacity personally. And what I found recommended is 20 to 30 drops, 1 to 3 times daily as needed. But I have also used as little as 10 drops in a moment of stress and anxiety. And I feel like that is enough for me personally to feel the calming and sedative effects of Motherwort. So I would start on the low end and experiment and work your way up and see what works best for you. Super simple. I hope you give it a try and let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I hope you enjoy.